Are you serious? We have breaking news out of Jerusalem. Rabbi Yehuda Glick, which of course I met in May of 2015 in Jerusalem. Of course, now he was nearly assassinated by a radical Islamic jihadist, shot him 4 times point blank in front of the Menachem Begin Conference Center. Yehuda Glick, Rabbi Yehuda Glick, of course, he's a well-known promoter of the Jewish access to the Temple Mount, and he's the founder of the Temple Mount Heritage Foundation. He was also the president at one time of the Temple Institute, and he is the leading rabbi pushing for the building of the third temple, but not only the building of the third temple, but also just allowing Jews to have access to visit the Temple Mount and to pray, and of which they are being completely discriminated against in their own country. Anyway, Rabbi Yehuda Glick blasted the Israeli police treatment of Jews in light of the recent events that's taken place at the holy site. He urged the police to, quote, remember who is the real enemy here. On Sunday, 3 Jews were arrested for allegedly inciting a riot on the Temple Mount for offenses which range from just verbal assaults to simply just wearing a Jewish garment. Now, according to the Jewish press, however, nobody was arrested for an assault on an Israeli police officer that took place there the same day. So, Yehuda Glick being put on the spot, again, having to defend the Israelis' rights to worship on the temple. Forget it. They can't worship. They can't even move their lips when they're on the Temple Mount. And last May of 2015, I met with Yehuda Glick. I interviewed him, a 4-part interview right here on YouTube, which you should watch it. It was very fascinating, extremely fascinating interview. And I am scheduled to interview him again very shortly. And we'll tell you more about that as that comes up. One thing's for sure. The building of the third temple is prophesied in the Bible. And of course, we all know as Christians that the Antichrist will actually walk into that temple at some point before the worshipers of God and declare that he's God. So that will happen also. And I've had people say, well, then they shouldn't build it. Well, you have to understand, look, my dad built a church, and I know the devil showed up a lot of times. But so did the Lord every time. And people were saved. So you have to understand, you can't stop Bible prophecy is my whole point. You just can't. You know it's already going to happen, and you know some of the things are going to happen after it's built. So what you should say to yourself is, how close are we to the coming of the Messiah, to Jesus Christ, Yeshua? How close are we to his return for the bride? Biblical prophecy is taking place so quickly now. And so we're lifting our voice like a trumpet, and we're trying our best to let people know that we're living in the apocalyptic age. And I also pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray for, the Bible says the Lord will bless them that bless Israel, but he'll curse him who curses Israel. And we stand with Israel. And as Christians, why not? Israel, of course, is the 12 tribes, the sons of Jacob. It's through this bloodline that Christ came into the world. And not only through the Jews, but also, don't forget that Ruth was a Moabite. And the Gentiles also played a role. But Satan doesn't want Jerusalem, doesn't even want Israel to exist. That's why the Iranians are literally salivating at getting their hands on weapons that they could maybe even threaten to annihilate Israel. They'll never do it. They'll never get it done. God won't let them. But Israel is becoming a cup of trembling. Zechariah 12. For Jerusalem will become a cup of trembling and a burdensome stone unto all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be broken into pieces. So this is the time we're in, folks. Matter of fact, listen what the Bible says in Zechariah chapter 12. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut into pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. Yet the Lord also says in Zechariah 12, verse 8, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, and the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all nations that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. And they shall look upon me whom they pierced, and they shall mourn for him, as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him, as one that's in bitterness for his firstborn. That's the words of the prophet Zechariah. Now, when we were in Israel in May, like I said, I met with Rabbi Yehuda Glick here, but I also visited a lot of sites. We went to the tomb of David. And, of course, the women go around on the other side of the tomb and the men on one side. And my wife Heidi was on this side with the women. And she walked up to the tomb of David, and she received a vision from the Lord, a word from the Lord that told her that weep for the sons of David, for the sons of Israel. And so it was a mighty word. And I'm emotional right now even talking about, because we understand the enemies are gathering. But Jesus said this would happen also when you see the armies compassed about Jerusalem. Know that these things that are written shall come to pass, for these are the days of vengeance. So folks, it's getting very intense. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem and pray for peace in the Middle East. Time is running out.